You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty.
Consistency creates dedication, and dedication creates consistency.
The only reason we survived as humans is our ability to hunt, to provide food, to bring it home.
You can't just erase that because we have iPhones and cars.
And the only reason I'm any good at bow hunting is because I've made every mistake out there.
If you really want to get better at hunting, you need to do it by yourself.
The greater the challenge, the greater the reward.
I was slowly honing what I do now.
Bow hunting, you never stop being a student of the game. You never stop learning. You never stop getting better.
Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call, and today my guests on the podcast are Barney and Sam Davis. If you don't know these guys, you'll want to start following them if you don't already. They both have incredible success in the mountains every year, often hunting solo with their bows. They're primarily all bow hunting all the time. It's archery or bust. They have proven themselves to be able to find success every year using, primitive archery tackle. And not only are they just great archery hunters, they're just incredible human beings as well. Inspiring, positive individuals that you all should follow if you don't already. This podcast was recorded in the early morning hours after we had spent the night on top of a beautiful mountain in Montana, climbed out of our tents, and at first light we sat down and recorded this podcast. The day before, we had shot our way up the mountain with our bows on a 3D course, like 25 targets. I got to spend time with these men. And this is my second interview, actually, with Barney, but my first time to meet Sam. Both of these men are inspiring, and I really eagerly enjoyed sitting down and just asking them questions and having this conversation about life in general. We talk about dedication. We talk about mental toughness, what it takes to be successful, not just in the mountains, but in life in general. Gets a little philosophical here and there. But it's just a really enjoyable conversation. This episode was made possible by Stealthy Hunter because we did this episode on the mountain at the Western Hunting Summit. If you like the podcast and you like what Stealthy puts out, go support us both by using the code GRITTY at Stealthy Nutrition. And get yourself a slick rifle cover or glassing pad if you don't have those already. Ryan also has those in the shop. You can get various supplements and health items there. And use the code GRITTY over at Graxall Game Bags. Help our buddy Austin out. He sells these incredible, tiny, lightweight, compact game bags that Ryan and I have been using for over 5 years. We love those things. Use the code GRITTY over at Goat Knives. I think it's Gritty Goat is the code. Get yourself a neck sheath knife or one of the disposable blade knives. They make incredible stuff over there as well. So check all that out. We appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and today I am at the Western Hunting Summit and put on by Ryan and Hillary Lampers, Stealthy Hunter. And I got some fabulous guests that are coming on the show today. I got Barney with Eastman's Elevated and all-around archery extraordinaire. And I've got Sam Davis. And Sam, I got your story last night here in camp at the hunting summit. You gave us a little talk about consistency.
Yeah, that's what Ryan asked me to talk about, consistency, last night. Yeah, it's the first time I ever got up and spoke in front of a group of people. It's funny because your assistant, he was videoing it, and he comes up to me and he goes, well, how much do you move around when you give a speech? He goes, when I have to do something with Brian Call or Barney, he goes, I got to put tables out because these guys bounce all over the place. He goes, I got to give them parameters. And I was like, I've never given a speech. So yeah, it was my first time. So this has been an honor to be here, and it's a great group of people that are here. It's awesome.
Well, you did great, and such a good pile of information there. We'll get into that a little bit, I think, on this podcast. A little touch. We'll have you touch a little bit on what you talked about because it was really good. There's a few key things that stuck out to me, and then Brian, why don't you just do a little quick introduction? for maybe someone who hasn't heard about what you're doing, what you're up to, where you're at, what you're about.
Yeah. So Brian Barney, man, I just I've been able to build a name for myself just through my love and passion of bow hunting. I fell in love with it and immersed myself in it, and I moved to Montana to chase my dreams of bow hunting, and the more time I spent at it, the more time I worked at it preparing, the better I got, and then able to share my experiences, able to write articles and get published, eventually start writing staff articles for Eastman's, and then from there it just grew. I started a podcast 7-8 years ago, so I think Brian Call beat me to the punch on that deal for the first hunting podcast, but we've been around for a few years and just sharing my passion and my knowledge from it. Been able to do some video work from there, capture my hunts, and which is always a difficult endeavor, but it's just been a really cool journey, and I think every year I love bow hunting more and more.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You and I did a podcast the last elk summit, or maybe it was one before that. It was a while ago, but you and I were on the same page when it comes to elk hunting. Ditch those calls, put them in your pocket or leave them at the truck, and just go all spot and stock.
Yeah, well, and you've proven it too. And since we've done that podcast and we've talked about it and discussed it, I've seen you have good success on bulls. Yeah. So I left the calls at the truck, which is not the normal advice you hear, but it's amazing when you really get proficient at spot and stock. You can target these bigger herd bulls, and all of a sudden the pressure doesn't matter. You don't have to catch that bull in the right mood or the right behavior. You can still enjoy the rut and be immersed in it, but keep the element of surprise and hopefully get an arrow in a big bull.
Yeah, it's sort of like you said, the element of surprise. When I listen to you talking to the group about that, I hate giving that up. Once you call, that's over, and it's such a huge advantage when you have that element of surprise and you're getting in tight, and you get to dictate the terms, when to get closer, when to hang back, all of that. But man, once you call, you've just handed a huge part of the day over to that bull or that group to decide, is that real? What is that? Do I even care? And then they're on to you and everything changes. So I like just being quiet.
Sam's the same way. So maybe some of your audience is just hearing about Sam, but what a stud of a bow hunter. And he's the same way, where he leaves his calls in there and he makes moves on them and then able to arrow them. And so that's a big part of your success as well. And you're not, like, I'm 155 pounds wet and wearing boots. I can hide behind that blade of grass. Sam, you're a big dude. Like, I think you got to be sneakier than I do anyways.
Yeah. Stalking, I mean, I've tried the calls. I think all of us have went through I've tried everything, right? And stalking is my game. I don't know if that comes from, I love hunting mule deer. I've chased tons of mule deer. I've chased tons of pronghorn. So my stalking skills have always been there, and I've progressed with those. So then you learn about calls. You see the old Primos videos, right? And so I tried the calling. But Brian, like you both are saying, when you start targeting those herd bulls, for me, that's a different ball game, and I like that elk are busy. Elk trust each other. Being that herd animal, they depend on each other. So if you can beat those few cows, you know the way the wind's going. You can kind of figure out where those elk are traveling. You know that bull's going to slide in on that back end. They're going to go nose to the wind. Pretty soon you start figuring that out, and you're coyote in the herd, as Brian says, or I just dogging them. Pretty soon that bull's going to put himself in a position that's vulnerable. Or you wait till evening, because now they've got into their bedding zones. And man, when I was younger, I'd fall them right into their bedding zones, and I've shot bulls in their bedding zones. I've shot bulls in their beds. It's not as productive. I'll definitely tell you, I've blown a lot more than I've ever got an arrow in. But through all that, putting stalks on them and waiting for, so it takes a little bit more open terrain. You're not just black timber hunting them. But yeah, you're waiting for that bull to put himself in a vulnerable position. And like you said, the element of surprise, and he has no idea that you're there. So you dictate your shot. You make sure there's no rush. You don't have to feel rushed. You get a good range. You can settle your pin. You can go through the motions of making a good shot and putting a kill shot on that bull. And yeah, I like that.
So Sam, last night you were talking. First bow was 14?
Yeah, I got a bow when I was 14.
Well, you stole your dad's bow when you were 14.
Yeah. So I stole my dad's bow. So if you want me to go, I can go through it a little bit.
Tell
So
us a little bit about this.
Sam Davis. I'm a Wyoming guy, born and raised in Wyoming. 14 years old. You know, I probably had. I said that at 14 that was when I was growing up. I had the little kid bows and stuff, but I didn't mess around much with them. Dad had a bow hanging on a moose rack. And it was a big old 37-inch draw, or 37-inch axle. I mean, it was extreme. One of those early 90s bows, or it might have been late 80s. Big aluminum arrows, overdraws, all that. I was a little guy back then. I wrestled 119 as a freshman, so right in there I was probably 5'5". Anyways, I'd draw that bow back, and I don't even think I was getting to where it was breaking over, and I was holding it in the power band, and I'd let her rip, and it would whack my arm. Anyways, Dad shows up. He'd been guiding fishermen that summer, and he shows back up to the house, and he's talking to me about what I'm doing and sees what I'm doing. And anyways, long story short, I get a bow bought at the local archery shop, and that was it. That was my calling. I don't know what you'd say,
Right.
But I started shooting that bow, and it just one thing led to another. I was able to. That first year, I killed a mule deer up in the high country.
Mm-hmm.
My older cousin showed up and helped me get it packed out. Mom had dropped me off up on the mountain, and I was 15. I couldn't drive, so Mom had dropped me off on the mountain. They were so surprised. She rolls up on Labor Day weekend to pick me up at this meeting point that my cousin was going to give me a ride to, and we had a buck deer in the back, a mule deer, high country buck, and man, that teed it off. And I'd already, I was a rifle hunter as a kid, those from 12 to 13, 14, so I'd already had this rifle tag, so I couldn't go chase elk that year. And so I had to wait another year. The next year, boy, you betcha, I had an elk tag, an archery elk tag. I had the archery mule deer tag, and I had the archery antelope tag. And that year, I shouldn't say archery mule, I had an archery deer tag. And I filled out all of them. I shot a cow elk at 3 yards, my first opportunity, first stalk into the timber on elk, and at about 3 yards, and man, it skyrocketed from there.
Question for you. You talked about how important sports were for you.
Yeah.
Athletic endeavors and how much that was a big deal. What was it about archery, though, hunting archery, that really hooked you? Because, I know a lot of guys who love sports, their football, that kind of stuff. But there's a few I've talked to over the years that they loved it, but their real passion was still archery. You need to look at Cam running all over the mountains. He likes this, the endurance stuff, the just to push himself physically. But at the same time, it's like he'll say it every time. Bow hunting is the first love, and then everything else comes next. And you see some guys that are pretty gifted athletes. I've talked to a few, like Jeff Janis and a few others that made it to the NFL even. And they're like, but all they could think about was every weekend going out hunting. You listen to Phil from Duck Dynasty, Phil Robertson. He's like, he's a gifted football player in college, but he's showing up with like dead birds and snakes in his pockets and stuff. And he's like, sure, I'll play football and I'll be really good and gifted, but I just want to be outside. So what is it that
for me? If you look at that time in my life was very important. I'm growing up, right? So you're becoming a man. You got school, sports. I played sports forever. I was a good athlete. I was never the best athlete. I tried hard. Like, I loved it. I have a lot of like camper of the week awards and stuff like that. I don't have all the all-state accolades, but I tried really hard, and sports that I was super competitive. Archery, I found this niche to where archery, looking back on it, at the time I didn't know this. Looking back now, archery was something I was pretty proficient at. Like, I started shooting some 3D shoots, and as a youngster, I was winning a lot of 3D shoots, still shooting that bow, and then I at the local archery shop, guys were taking me that weren't family. They'd see me shooting at the archery shops. I had guys that were hauling me up into Montana to shoot. I had guys that were hauling. I went all the way to Grand Oregon and shot, and I think with the sports, I was good at them. So there's where I had the competitiveness. I was staying in shape. I loved the competitiveness of the sports, but I'd found this thing where I was starting to have really good success in archery at a young age, and I think that I just gravitated towards that.
is there a different feeling when you're out there, adrenaline wise? Is there a different feeling when you're excelling on a bow hunt than when you excel on the field?
Oh yeah, for me, yes. I enjoy sports. Like, I played sports up to even into my adulthood through college. I didn't play college sports, but I played in all of the like intramurals and competitive intramural stuff. Like, we were good, and And then I look in like men's league softball. We played in the competitive leagues in softball. And yeah, I love to win. I'm competitive. If there's a competition, I want to be in it, right?
Yeah.
I fought MMA for a little while. I had a little short stint in that. I love the competitiveness. I loved learning how to box. I grew up wrestling, so the grappling I liked. But all of that, even the rush of that, there's nothing that compared to putting a good arrow in an animal or putting a stock on. I can say even in an unsuccessful hunt, had more thrill than my highest sport accolades.
I got to ask you this before we get back to Sam's story. What is your take on that, Brian? Because I'm always fascinated because I grew up hunting. I had a bow when I was like 12. I had the standard, fiberglass ones, but then I graduated to my first compound and went through all that. But I see these guys come back, these ex-Navy SEALs, right, that are just hardcore. And I see some guys that have done some pretty intense activities throughout their lives leading up to taking up bow hunting, right?
Yeah.
And I see this consistent pattern where these guys kind of are like, what's next in life? Like, I've done the hardcore stuff, and I feel like life is sort of, there's this emptiness, right? They take up bow hunting, and they're like, this is my new calling. Like, I want to shoot all the time, and I want to get some tags, and I live and breathe this life. What's your take, Brian? Why does that happen?
Man, it's in our DNA, and the only reason we survived as humans is our ability to hunt, to provide food, to bring it home. And it's the ultimate challenge. Like, the tougher the challenge, the greater the reward. And see, in high school, sports won out for me. I was a wrestler, and I loved, like, the harder I worked at it, the better I could get, the more I could achieve. And so I wasn't the best athlete, but I could outwork everybody. I could put in more running miles on the roads. I could wrestle collegiate. I could wrestle freestyle. I could wrestle Greco. I could travel around. I could wrestle. I had I was the smallest kid on the team. So you were 119. I wrestled 101 at 90 pounds as a freshman on the varsity team. Like, I was, I wasn't a giant back then, and I'm not now, but, and then I got done, and I chose not to go on to college wrestling. And so, like, I needed to find my passion. I needed a place for all this passion. And us guys, we need that. And when I found bow hunting, and I had been bow hunting, but that's where I really jumped in and started to apply all these life skills I had learned through wrestling and through tough challenges, and started to apply that. And I learned that archery hunting a wild animal is extremely difficult. Like, you're talking success rates at back then, well, in Montana, it's 6% on a bull elk with a bow and arrow. 6% of guys, 1 out of 20. But all of a sudden, when I started to prepare and work hard and put in the miles, put in the time going deep down the rabbit hole of my bow, develop my instincts, all of a sudden I could start arrowing bulls year after year. And in the challenge of the mountains and the time and the effort that it took to do it, that's what hooked me, and that's where I found my love for it. And the more I worked at it, the more I prepared, the better I did, and the more I love it. So I think it's also in our DNA. 200,000 years of being a hunter, being a provider. There's something that ties to us that's visceral there. That excitement and thrill you get getting close to an animal, making a stalk on it. There's nothing like it on planet Earth that I've found. It's so different. It's so much better than sports.
You're right.
So it is a primal feeling that is deep in our DNA that we are meant to be hunters.
I heard Shane Mahoney say one time that, he's conservationist, and he said he said, hunting is man's first and last try at life. And what he's saying throughout the years of evolution, that it's how we became more dominant was being able to hunt and hunt more effectively and more effectively and more effectively. That was our try at survival, because we ain't the toughest critters when you compare us to an elk or anything else. Like, so here we are trying to, we go up against grizz, we're dead meat, but if we use our minds, if we use our other abilities, especially our big brains, you realize, like, we got here by hunting one way or another. somehow or another. We figured it out. And you can't just erase that because we have iPhones and cars. Like, it's still the amount of time that things have been easier, it's pretty short. The amount of time it's been hard, pretty long. And so you can't just all of a sudden have that go away. And I do think you unlock things when you become quiet and you sneak through the trees and you get close. You know, Sam, you were talking about rifle hunting. You know, you did a lot of that, just like a lot of young men do if they got a father that hunts a lot. Then you graduated to the bow. There's a big difference between a rifle at 200 yards and getting in bow range with a bow. One's just more primal.
Oh, totally. Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I look at it. So 12, 13, 14, I hunted 3 seasons with a rifle. I didn't hunt a lot. But yeah, it's I guide. So I guide too. I guide rifle hunters, 99.5% rifle hunters. Right. And, yeah, it's a huge difference. I was telling Brian, Barney yesterday we were shooting our bows. I was telling him about a sheep hunt that I did, back in 2017. I killed a bighorn ram. And these rams worked into a snowdrift because there was no water in this unit. But at about 2:30 in the afternoons, it'd get warm enough, and that water would start trickling out of those snowdrifts. And I just happened to, the position that I'd worked into, I'd got above these rams, and they'd worked up to a snowdrift that I'd worked past. But being in that bow range, I watched these rams roll like dogs and paw in that snow. 5 rams, you could hear them crunching the snow.
Yeah,
that's something that rifle hunters, you don't always get. Very seldom do they get to experience that. Or you've been on mule deer stalks where I'm watching a buck. He's got up out of his bed, but he's not in a position to shoot, and I'm sub 20 yards, and I've watched him chew, and you can actually see his jaw, and then you'll see his jaw stop. Like, man, Barney and I have spoke about this too, and you'll see that jaw stop, and that's when he's listening, you know, and then he'll go back to chewing, and then he'll stop chewing one more time, and he'd caught something, you've stepped on something maybe, and then pretty soon you'll see their body language actually relax, and you'll go back to seeing them chewing. You'll see their ears go back to quit being so erect. All of that stuff in archery, that's why I do it. And so that's the huge dynamic between rifle and archery for me is you get in tighter, you hear how many guys hear elk cough? You'll be in their beds with them, and you'll hear elk go, they'll be chewing and they'll choke. Mm-hmm. How many rifle hunters know that there'll be elk? They'll sit there and cough or choke on something, or I don't know. I think that those little things right there, being in with that animal, and I'm still a compound shooter. I'm not the trad guy that's on top of him at 19 yards all the time, but I've been in tight a lot, and then I've seen some things that are so amazing that that's why I like it. That's what draws me to archery, and that's why I'll always be an archery hunter.
You said something, Barney, about being in range like that, sitting down, and you said pretty soon, if you do it enough, you'll get in the bubble where that animal's sub 20 yards, 30 yards, and the hunt's just started. And you'll have to sit there for 2 or 3 hours in that tight pocket. And you were mentioning, you know, that's a feeling of discomfort, you know, and also excitement, a combination of all sorts of things that you just don't get. And guess what? Also, in that moment, you're not thinking about email or like all energy, all resources, all brain power, all body everything is focused on this quiet, do not move, be alert, you know, be a good predator. And I think that's so unique. This year I had a coos deer buck that was he's a booner giant coos that I had spot and stalked. I got all the way to like 35 yards, and now I'm sitting there and I am waiting and I am waiting and I'm waiting. Like 2.5 hours I'm waiting for this deer to just stand up and give me that shot. And like you said, he's chewing, he stops. And every now and then, coos deer just freak out, like just because they freak out because they're a whitetail and they're a miniature one.
So wired.
And they're like, ugh, and you're like, oh no, they smelled me, something's up, and they kind of calm down and they're like, oh, it wasn't me, you know. But you're always thinking that. But getting in that pocket and being like that, nothing else on a stalk as well. If I'm crawling in, nothing else enters my mind. Nothing. Like all resources are directed here, and there's a certain amount of, I think our body needs that. It needs that stress that's so intense, like crazy intense. But then after that 2-hour thing is over, win or lose, that stress is gone.
Yeah.
It's like an animal that gets chased by a wolf. Like during the wolf chase, during the evasion, that animal is like, oh no, the world's ending. Then as soon as they lose that wolf and it's not there anymore, they just wander over and start eating. They don't even care anymore. That was before. They don't worry about the next time. They're not sitting there like, I think we have a unique ability as human beings to know the future and therefore let it overstress us day after day, year over year. Mm-hmm. And this sort of puts us back in that primal period where nothing matters right now except this fight. And now it's over. And now it's like some sort of calmness that comes. It's a stress, but it's like a good stress.
Oh yeah.
You're so spot on. It's it's these intense moments, and definitely archery is a ramped up intensity, getting in close. And I love what you said, Brian, like mental health in today's day and age is so important, and to be absolutely immersed in something, to be in that present moment and only in that present moment. You're not worried about the past, not worried about the future. The only thing that matters is this elk herd in that moment that you're in. And yeah, there's something beautiful about it where it is a meditation where you do get done, and it's painful. It is so tough to sit still for 2 hours. Like you said, every muscle in your body hurts. Like it's a really difficult endeavor. It's difficult to stay still, difficult to make the right movements, and we're not born with it. Like you watch a house cat, they're way stealthier than I am, even with 20 years bow hunting experience. Like they have to kill it with their teeth and claws, and you watch them move, and you watch them get close to a Tweety bird, and they'll sit there in the grass and just watch it right in front of them, right in range, until it stops looking at them, and then they pounce. Like just watching a house cat or even a kitten, they are so stealthy. They're born with it. Yeah. We're not. Our skills are developed. They have to be downloaded to our hard drive. And so you have to have these experiences. You have to fail. You have to feel heartbreak. You have to find success. And within that, you start building these hunting instincts, and the better your hunting instincts get, like the better moves you make on these animals, the more patience you develop. Like you hunt with Lampers, one of the most patient guys I know. Like that guy, he doesn't kill him until it's right. And I've developed that same patience, and every year I get more and more patience. And it's a fine line. Like you need to be aggressive to go put yourself into the elk or into the deer. So I'm always willing to go make a play or make a stalk. But throughout the years, I've learned what I can get away with and what I can't, when I need to hold up, when I need to be still, when I have that all-in moment. But you're right, being immersed in that is beautiful because it's the only thing you think about.
It is. I feel like I come back from a week of doing that and I'm a different guy. All of a sudden, all these things that I was freaking out about before, deadlines and this and that and the bills to be paid, and I realized nothing, the wheels didn't fall off. Everything was fine. And I'm actually, like, nothing phases me now. Like, for the next 3 or 4 months, 2 months, then I got to go out again. Like, my wife knows it, too. She's like, you need to go on a hunt. Like, there's this stretch from, like, your Arizona trip to, like, Bear. It's too long. We need to put something in the middle there. And that's cool as well. So, Sam, you're picking up your bow. You've had a lot of success. I mean, how old are you?
37.
37. So all those years when you were younger, and you mentioned last night you were out there by yourself, solo, a lot.
Yeah.
And early on, you're killing animals, and it's just continued since then. For you, finish telling some more of your story.
So I guess where I left off would have been, so as a youngster, so now I'm like 19, 20, college has started. I got a decent job, and I went to college. I didn't finish college. I started with a good job, and still where I'm at today. I've worked there 20 years. I immersed myself in hunting, and when I say that, I was diving head on into. Now I had some money, so I could get better bows. I wasn't all about the equipment. I just wanted equipment that was efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be able to kind of stay dry. I couldn't afford the best. I was wearing my Cabela's Microtex. It dried fast, and I could get the pants. They were unhemmed, so they were long enough for me. If that's not, and so that's the kind of gear I rolled with. I had
like a $20 Walmart tent. This is like in college. It was like when Walmart first started showing up too. Like I'm old, and I remember rolling that thing out, and it had a little rain fly that was about 3 feet by 2 feet that went over the top, and then the rest of it was just leaked.
Yeah,
and we carried the jars of. We just went out there with a couple loaves of bread and peanut butter and jelly, and we literally ate that. Every day for like 7 days, and we were so sick of it at the end. But it wasn't about that part of it. It was getting out there, and it was on the cheap because we didn't have any money. It didn't matter.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, so I had enough money to get the experiences started, right? I had the licenses. But then I started, I think I look back. I told this story last night. I looked back at those mentors. I rolled back, and the archery shop had gone now. Mm-hmm. But I was running into these guys that they were the killers back then, and here it's been 6, 8, 10 years later, and now they're asking me about my successes. And that's when I think I started turning an evolution and kind of seeing like, this is actually something that's I'm figuring it out, because the older guys that I was looking up to now, they're coming back to me, and they're asking me about my hunts. They're asking me how I did that and where I was and how it worked out, and it just kind of started stacking up, and I was very lucky. I was able to get a lot of tags, and I got every tag I could. I mean, I would hunt starting August 15th. We started chasing antelope, and I wasn't done till about the 20th of December chasing white-tailed does, and everything was my bow. And so with all of that, it was stalk after stalk after stalk. I was trying ground blinds on white-tailed does. I was trying tree stands. I didn't like very many tree stands hunting. I tried it all. Elk, I would try tree stands. I was trying every single tactic that you heard about and read about and seen about. I was trying everything on every animal, and I was slowly honing into what became what I do now, and I'm still learning. I haven't figured it out. I definitely have not figured it out, but I think it started wide, and now it has kind of narrowed up to, I have this path that I have, and then it just started to where it continued to where I look back on the years, and there's been a lot of years that since I haven't killed an elk. I've been very successful, and I'm not a trophy hunter. I'm not a guy that I tried to reiterate. There's a lot of youngsters here on this one, and I tried to reiterate to them last night that whatever you see on Instagram, whatever you see on Facebook, these covers, these magazines, that could be you one day, but don't focus on that. Mm-hmm. Get those reps in, go hunt those does. If you can get cow elk tags, go chase those cow elk. You can go chase those doe antelope. Everything eats good. It's great. I was telling last night with that too, I fill all these tags, and we fill my mom's freezer. We fill our freezer. We actually donated meat to we found some needy families last year, and my wife and I, we really wanted to give Christmas presents, and we gave whole professionally cut and packaged, cut and wrapped deer to these families. Yeah. And so all of that, I guess what I'm getting at is those reps, telling these youngsters, don't worry about what you see on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. I haven't ever worried about that. Sometimes it's been a really nice buck or bull that's been where I want them to be, and that's the one that gets shot. I look for age. I like the bulls that they don't know they only got, say, 290 inches of horn on their head, but he might be 10 years old. He just got giant bases. He's out of those 3x3 bucks. I've killed some big old 3x3 deer that they're probably six years old plus. I've never had them age, but I've killed deer that don't got teeth in their head. That's a prize to me. I mean, He's dodged a lot of winters. He's dodged predators. He's tried to procreate. He's worked his butt off all through November, and here he is. And to get an arrow and a buck like that's looked over his shoulder his whole life. For 6 years, he's looked over his shoulder, and he's pawed through snow. And that's the thing that drives me.
Why do you suppose? Because I feel the same way. Lampers feels the same way in general. Like you said last night, if you can get that old deer, and also he just happens to be a freak giant, in the antlers, it's like, well, yeah, sure, that's cool. But what is it about the age class that makes, like, both of you are selective? You're not just shooting the first deer you see. I think part of that's, and I've said this to friends of mine, like, you're trophy hunting. It's like, well, actually, my hunt would be over on day 2 if I just shot a fork and horn coos deer. It would just be over. Like, there needs to be a certain degree of age. And so talk a little bit about that. Maybe, Brian, give me your 2 cents there. Because, as Sam's talking about, he's not a trophy hunter. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what that means, though. in some ways. I do have some stereotypes for maybe the negative version of what a trophy hunter would be or what a positive one would be. But what is it about what you're doing when you're out? Ryan just says, I shoot the ones that speak to me. But I think that's vague enough that it just satisfies everyone.
He's
you know?
like mysterious.
Yeah. Right? So I just stand there, I'm like, it's not speaking to me. And then he's like, trophy hunter. And starts calling me names.
I heard it last night
Yeah,
on
right?
the
It's on
video.
video.
And Brian, your videos are so next level, man. I have enjoyed it. The last couple weekends of watching those things were just amazing. But yeah, I love mysterious Ryan Lampers. It just has to speak to me. That's so funny. But yeah, I think you know, and I said it earlier, the greater the challenge, the greater the reward. And I think we put these goals in place, and we keep moving the goal line. We keep making another challenge. It's what gets me up in the morning to run those trail miles. It's what gets me out there to get those bow reps in. And no, it doesn't have to be like I've killed some giant bucks, and it's great when they have age and a giant rack. But I also just love those older deer, those older bulls. They've survived for so long, and they've honed their instincts as well. The places they live, the way they react to danger, the way they pay attention to the herd. They're the most challenging animal to arrow. And so when you see one that has age, when you see one that's got heavy, dark antlers, you know, I killed a great buck late season in Idaho in big mountains, deep snow, rutting mule deer, the same conditions like that you showed on that video that was on your subscription or whatever. It's just great. So like I killed a great buck in Idaho, and I was 8 days in, and when I got there, it was 10 below, snowing sideways. I slid my truck off the side of the road, you know, at one point, just trying to get to the vantage point. Like, it is an absolute adventure, and in the end, I found this great 3-point that had this huge extra in his web line, and the photos are great of this buck. Killing this buck is great. You know, he's not one of those bucks that's a 200-incher that you just go, wow. Yeah. But he's a big, heavy, older deer, and to put my hands on those antlers, like he means so much to me because of the experience, the adventure, and he'd lived so many years avoiding bow hunters and rifle hunters. Like, that was a cagey old buck, and because of where I built my skill set, the experiences I have, like I have a good chance at killing that buck, and so I was able to match wits with him, and in the end, outsmarted him and put a good arrow in him, and it means the world to me. It's like climbing Everest. It's like, and once you climb Everest, you want to do it again. You want to find the next K2.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeking challenge. You're seeking, for me, it's like twofold. When you go out there, you're looking for, I mean, okay, Sam, let's say you're out there, you're hunting, you're glassing. Let's say it's, what are you into the most? Elk, mule deer? Which one? Which one?
On the spot.
Ah, man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say elk.
Okay.
I'm gonna say elk.
There's just some freak elk. It's got drops and things that elk don't normally have, and something just stupid bases. Maybe he's not the biggest scoring bull, but he is a freak, let's say.
Okay.
You spot him. What happens to your body? What happens to you? What happens to you when you see that?
It's almost like you have to do like the blink. I've had that happen. It's been on a mule deer a mule deer that I actually harvested. I remember seeing it, and I only saw one side. So I'll go to that. I'll tell the whole story, but I remember seeing this. I had been on a stalk on another buck, and it unfolded, and I didn't get a shot. And I was backtracking, coming back down a ridge, and I dropped down through a cut, and I was coming up, and I just crested where I could see it was evening. It was coming evening. And all of a sudden I catch this deer coming out of the timber, and all I see is a right side. I pull up my binos. He's probably 500 yards. I pull up my binos, no spot and scope, pull up binos. All I see is probably, I can tell you he's got 19-inch G2.
Yeah.
And he's got like a 12-inch back fork. That's all I see. And he's got a kicker coming off it that's about off that 12-inch back fork. There's a cheater. And that's all I see for my mind. Yeah, my mind went, whoa. Then I remember like blink, double blink, and then like pull up. And then it was like go. It was like go now. So there wasn't, I can't really say.
Did you have this feeling like that's the one, I have to have it?
Yeah, it's like no, there was no question. It was like binos back in the harness, go. I just got to the next high spot where I knew because he was moving. So what I guess I'm getting at, it was go now. There was no question.
What's the feeling of motivation for this pursuit compared to motivation on a bunch of other animals that you kind of liked, but just watching glass and like there's a motive. All of a sudden you're willing to like stay on a instead of a 7-day hunt, it's 14. All of a sudden, you're like, I don't care if I have food today. Like things change, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I can really describe the feeling, but yeah, things change. You're right, because you've looked at, like, I had just been on a really nice buck that any of us would take, right? Yeah. He was age class. He was missing a front fork on one side, but he was a stud, just stud. And I was kind of in the slumps, you're kind of like, I'll find another one like that, like that. I can find another buck that good. But then it was all said, boom, like boom, boom, there's a giant. And it's, I don't know, the mindset there, the shift of, because you don't get those opportunities, right? You don't see those droppers. You don't see those big kickers. That's not an everyday thing. You were asking, when you asked me about, when you asked me about what I like to chase or what makes the challenge more of chasing these older deer, you got to remember they all started as 2 points. There's a plethora of 2 points. Yeah. Then there's 3-year-olds. It gets smaller. They've gotten shot. And when you start getting up, that pyramid you're at the top of the pyramid now.
They're unicorns.
Yeah, they're unicorns of the older animals, those older age class. So when you see that one that's, he's got age and he's got whatever he's got on top of his head, that just kicks it into another level. So you've been glassing all these bucks that are right at that 4.5-year-old. Right. Like you're looking for that 4.5 on public land. You're looking for that 4.5-year-old.
Yeah.
You obviously you want older, but you start seeing that 4.5. You're starting to see that buck during the rut. He's the one that's the dominant buck in some instances, and so you're looking for that. And when you find that next level, because now you're right. You've been on those 4.5-year-olds. Let's just throw an age at it. You've been on that 4.5. But when you see that next level one, it's whatever the mysterious, whatever Lampers calls them. Yeah, like when you know. And I have a really hard time describing it. It's just it does speak to you, and for me, it doesn't. There's no deliberation. There's no looking through my spot and scope and going, does he got this? Does he got that? That's when I tell you, like when I hit that buck with my binos at 500 yards, 500 yards is still a poke out there, going through the sagebrush stuff. But I saw enough that I knew I could tell his body was giant. Everything just gave it away honestly, within 15 seconds, I knew that was a shooter. When you have to, let's get a little closer. Let me get up to that ridge. When I get up to that ridge, if I can look down him. Yeah. You've thought about it enough that it could turn out to be a great deer. Maybe you didn't have the right lighting. Maybe he was covered up. But you start doing that thinking, let's get the scope on him. Let's zoom in. What do you think? You're talking to your hunting partner. Yeah. That you still might shoot that deer because you've decided that's the one. But I mean, that next level, like you asked, when you see all the droppers and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's just like there's no question. It's just green light. Let's go. We need to make this happen. And I'll stick it out until we get this sucker, right?
I'll sit through the blizzard right on the edge of him. Yeah. My question is the motivation, the driver. Like you see that unicorn, you get this. You're thinking about all these things and how you're going to get this thing. How often does it come into your mind? And I'll preface this by saying it's just not relevant to me, probably to you guys too, but maybe to some it is. There's a wild misconception with trophy hunting, the term, I think. When you're there, how often is it, wow, everybody's going to see what I did? Or how often is it, you're just doing what you want to do? Like you found the challenge. Do you know what I mean? Like they're totally different drivers. Yeah. And I think a lot of people see the outcome, you with the animal, and they'll attribute motives to your pursuit based on something far more shallow than what it really is. Like whether you had Instagram or not, you're going to go out there and do that thing. But when you achieve the unachievable and you're sitting there and you take a picture with this archery animal that you took that was older than old for this area, and that's a moment where other guys feel what you feel, and there's a chance to share it with them because they relate. And sometimes that circle's small, but it's like you got to share it. That's what we do. But it's not out of this shallow drive to get attention. It's more like an interest to share the thing that you're passionate about with someone who understands that passion, that gets it. I'll show a deer that is impressive to me that I took with a bow to coworkers, back in the day at the companies I worked at. And they're like, "Oh, nice deer."
Yeah,
that's not what I wanted. I need to talk to someone that's been in the trenches, that gets it, that's put in the years of work, that knows how hard it is to take that. Then they sit there and they go, "Mad respect. I mean, what happened? How did it go?" There's a genuine curiosity they have for the whole story, front to back. And I think that, unfortunately, describing this, helping someone who hasn't put in the years behind the bow, hasn't put in the years in the woods, the suffering, the difficulties, it's hard for them sometimes to look at that and realize what it is that you're showing them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really well said. That's like the best way I've heard it described.
That's
it is. You want to connect with guys, and the guys that hunt are the guys that realize it, and to be able to gain their respect is a wonderful feeling. But I think in what Brian is saying, like, you can't chase it for the wrong reasons. It's not about clout. It's not even about the respect. It's about the enjoyment of the pursuit, and really, when I find a giant animal, there's no feeling like it that I've ever felt. Like I just feel gratitude. I feel like it's so amazing to put in the work on all your skill sets to get to a point where you find a giant deer with age, and when you find one of these bucks that's got stickers or kickers, that's a 200-inch buck, that is a special experience. And just to be able to chase that buck with a bow and arrow, that's what I live for. And I don't kill everyone.
Exactly.
But
chase. To have the opportunity to be in position, to get yourself in a position, to even see those deer, to see those bulls. We are a small percentage of the population that has seen and laid eyes on, if you've seen those giant bulls. So to have the opportunity to have a bow in hand and do it, that's what we do it for. And then the icing on the top of the cake is if you come home with that on your back, and that's it. So that's why those photos that you get shown at the places of where you work, that's why those mean so much to you. That's why those heads, for me, that's what the antlers hanging on the wall, that encapsulates so much of. There's so much more than that trophy room, right?
Dude,
I love the stories. I can tell the yardage of every animal. It's about.
I was dying last night when you were talking about the photographs that people took.
35
hang in the bow shop. Like that's what we did. You put your name and the date and stuff on there, and you stuck it on. And everybody came into the bow shop just to see who got what that year.
Yeah,
and you're looking around and stuff, and it wasn't a big, who's the best contest. It's just this camaraderie and brotherhood that we're all in this chase together. And then you're talking about how at the end of the season, at the end of that, they take it and they put it in an album, and you can flip through year over year and see everybody who's hung a photo at the local shop.
Yeah.
There's some community there and brotherhood. Like you said, guys grabbing you and taking you on 3D shoots.
Oh, man.
I mean, there's so much that comes from this community and from hunting. It's a special way to live. It's a lifestyle for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sam, throughout the years, doing the hunts that you've done, what would you say? What would you recommend to young guys? There's a number of them here at the Western Hunting Summit. They want to achieve higher levels of success. That's why they're here. They're trying to shave that learning curve. Get out there and have more success with a bow. What's your advice to some young guys coming up?
I think, like I said last night, I have a saying. I say consistency creates dedication, and dedication creates consistency. And I drive that home, and I tried to lay that example last night because they're young, they haven't hunted a ton, so they haven't got to see that. I tried to relate to like school to them, right? I just explained, like, you go to class, you don't really want to go to class. You go to class because you have to go to class. All of a sudden you do decent in your grades because you're there. You might as well try. Mm-hmm. So, but people, they want to dedicate themselves to, I'm going to get a 4.0 GPA. Well, to start with that, you got to be consistent about going to class. You got to be consistent about getting good grades. It's an evolution. Pretty soon, now you are dedicated to that 4.0 because you got skin in the game. School, right, and then dedication, and then
it's like the gym too. It's like
gym,
you go to the gym.
That's the big one for
me.
Like,
the first step is just show up.
Exactly.
If even if you just stand around, just show up, right? Every like whatever your goal is, 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm gonna be at that gym, and then you're standing around, and you're like, well, I might as well get on. Right? I don't know, this exercise bike because I got nothing else to do as I come to the gym. Yeah. So exactly.
So I tried to lay out an example, and gym is the huge one for me. There's guys that go to the gym that I work out with, and some guys, they're good dudes, and I'm always, if they miss a day, I'm always consistency creates dedication, always saying it. And but it's true, whether it starts out 20 minutes for 2 days a week, and then all of a sudden 3 days a week isn't that bad, you're cranking out 20 minutes, and all of a sudden you start to see results. Everybody says that New Year's resolution, I'm going to dedicate myself to this. Well, it's easy to say I'm going to dedicate it, but you got to put in the work to get there. And that route for me, that if I tell these kids they're in athletics right now, they're in school right now. So I tried to relate it last night when I was talking to them to something that was relatable to them, right?
Yeah.
For me, that shifts right over into bow hunting. And for me, bow hunting, it becomes not just shooting your bow, not just working out, not just being a good dad at home and being a good husband at home. You got to be consistent in all of those things. And with that dedication has been built now. Now you are you have dedicated a lot to all of what you've been consistent at. And with that dedication, now it creates consistency because you got the skin in the game. Now you're going to, you want to be consistent. You don't want to miss the gym.
Right.
You're going to help your wife do this so that you can get that time off in September from the family. You're going to shoot your bow because you've worked so hard to get that tag that you spent. Like, for me, that's the way I look at it. And then also never quit. I have a saying I always say predators never quit. I've said that. I started a long time ago with some of my buddies, and it was a dirty hunt that we were on, and I looked down, I was like, predators never quit, boys. Like, the wolf never stops. He's got to eat. And I've always been on that motto. And you always hear the old timers, they would tell me, you can't run elk down. You can't run wildlife down. I mean, I might not be able to run it down, but I am going to try my damnedest to keep up with it. And that never quit. I mean, attitude of like, I remember bumping elk in the timber. That's when I started figuring out tracking. Bump them in the timber. Well, now I got tracks and pine duff. I could keep up on tracks, and they'd funnel back. They get on an elk trail. They're easy to follow. Bump them again on accident. I wasn't bumping them on purpose. I'm trying to sneak through the timber. Bump them again. About the fifth time, and 9 hours later, I got a bull with an arrow in him. And all of a sudden, I started putting those building blocks together, and that was the never quit. I didn't know it at the time. I was 17 years old. I didn't know that I didn't have this mindset, but looking back, it was a never quit attitude of just, when I go back to my athletics, you asked about the athletics, I wasn't the best, but I didn't quit.
Yeah.
I didn't quit. When coach asked you to do this, I wanted to go hard, and I wasn't the biggest, strongest guy, but I loved football. And there was bigger, stronger, better guys, but I was going to hit them every single time, and I wanted to strip the ball from everybody. I wanted to lay a hit. I wasn't a big offensive guy. I think if I could look at these youngsters and say that, it's just be consistent in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, work hard, be the hardest worker in the room, and everything will pay off. Everything kind of falls in line. Brian and I were talking about this yesterday, shooting about, like, he was talking about entrepreneurship. And you put your mind to something, it really, truly, you can work towards what you want. I know it sounds cliche, but man, it's the truth. I mean, look at you, both of you guys are entrepreneurs. And I'm not. I work for a great company, but it's something to be said that just that consistency in anything you do.
Mm-hmm. They say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. If you want to be a drywaller that's super talented, or filmmaking, whatever it is, I feel like I do like a outdoor documentary hunt film. It's kind of my thing.
It's great too.
And over the years, I'm like, it didn't just happen. Right? I started to do the math on how many hours behind a desk on a computer I've done this, how many hours in the field I've filmed, all the footage that I've done over the years that I practiced running a camera, but never turned into anything. It's just a pile of crap. All that stuff. If it takes 10,000 hours to become good at jiu-jitsu, for example, right? That's 10,000 hours. There's no shortcut. Right? And you're going to get pretty good at 3,000 hours, and then 5,000 hours, and then you get really good at 10. And so you can't just be, some guys are gifted, right? But that's not, most people, even the gifted guys, there's a certain amount of hours that has to be earned to become really good at something. And enjoy the ride, like, okay, you're going to suck for a while.
Yes.
Who cares, You were talking about this running elk down, and it brought to mind this experience. I think it was like 2012 or something. I'm out with my cousin Ben. He's pretty redneck, and we grew up together. And we're out here in the Hells area, in out of Oregon, and there's this bull that we're on top of chasing that has like 50 cows, and we kind of get in position on this bull and cut him off. It's real open country in Hell's Canyon area. This happens a bunch of times, and we almost get this bull throughout the day. And he's so fired up that we just keep getting more and more chances, even though they run and they go over here, and then we come over here and we get them. They run over there and we come. Well, after like hours of this, and it's getting toward evening, the bull comes and he gives me this 50-yard moment. Like, I am so tired. We've gone miles in Hell's Canyon just cutting over tops, cutting them off, getting in front of them. And they're so distracted with the rut that we could just keep doing it. But I don't know how many miles we went, but we were just working our asses off. Bull comes in. I have that 50-yard moment. He's straight on, and he keeps turning sideways and all that kind of stuff. And I don't get this shot. And the bull finally turns, and all the cows run, and they start running up this hill. And I see them running this time, and usually they just bumped a little bit of bump, and they would go to the next spot. This time they're gone. And my cousin, he looks at me like, let's go. And I'm like, oh, you're never going to catch him. You're never going to catch him. And this bull is a stud, giant bull. He's got a horn sticking out of his shoulder that's busted off. The tip is busted off. He's got one antler on this side. He's like a 350 bull. One antler, this one snapped off at the main beam. He's just got the one royal on the front, and he's just we want this thing because it is the oldest bull. I mean, there's only one other bull in the area. His main beam busted off on the other side, and his eyes gouged out, and it's just pus coming down. And you're like, these are warriors, He starts running up that hill, and I'm like, you're never going to catch that. That's over, It's over. And he's not going very fast, He's about how fast we've been going. It's a long day. He's like, and I watch him climb, and I'm just mad, and I'm kicking dirt and throwing rocks. I'm just like so mad, After all that work, it didn't work out, and he runs, and he goes over the top, disappears for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and I'm slowly walking up the hill. And then I come over to the hill, and he comes over the top on the skyline, and his bow's in the air, and he's like, and I'm like, no, he didn't. He didn't kill that. There's no way he killed that bull. No way. No way. Comes down the hill, and he's like, he's dead, man. He's dead. And I remember just being like, I gave up. He didn't give up. He ran that thing down. He knew where they were coming around the base. He hustled his butt, got over, sat down just in time for him to come by, and he smoked him in bow range. And it was like that one last push. That's what it took. That one last drive, and it finally came together. And what else did I have to do?
You were there to hunt.
I was there to hunt. Like, what else did I just wimped out. I just quit, and he didn't. And so ever since that time, I'm like, until the sun goes down, until there's nothing left, you have to try. And that has converted into tons of success that my younger self missed out on, didn't get. And when you were talking about, that brings to mind running down elk, and that's not the last time either. After that, we're running down animals all the time. Or like you said, you bump them, and you just let them go around the corner, and then you stalk them again. It might take 2 or 3 hours to catch up, and then you're there again, and then there again, and there again. And that's how I killed that bull a couple years ago solo. That Ryan guilted me into not going home on,
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that too. You need a buddy who is like, hold you to some expectations. Like you said, there's some accountability when you go to the gym. You have a crew. They go to the gym. When a guy doesn't show up, it's like, everybody's like, hey, yo, dude. And that community is huge. It really does help.
Yeah. There's 5 guys. I mean, there's a couple of other guys on Instagram I was talking about. I roll with I think that's been something too that's pushed me. We roll with our crew. There's 5 of us. We all started bow hunting about the same time, and we were all pretty damn successful as youngsters. And our crew has stayed tight. We all married now. We all have kids now together. And that crew, you want to talk about accountability or that drive right there. Nobody hears it but us. Yeah. We have a Snapchat together. It's our little group. It's like every year. It sounds lame, but it's like it's the 2020 killers, the 2021 killers, and that's what our little Snapchat thing is, just to our little group. But that group of guys, and you want to talk about iron sharpens iron, like, man, those that group, to run with them, like we shoot 3Ds together. It's not fun shoot. Like, we're there to win. Like, it's about blood. We go to the backyard, we shoot. We all help each other. I mean, all of us got bow presses at home, but yeah, it's that group, that right there. We don't necessarily always hunt together. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of our buddies 2 years ago, he killed a bull. It was the end of September. He was solo hunting. He had service. The Snapchat rolls in. He goes, "Boys, we got one." And I was like, I'll meet you. I'll help pack it out. Another one hits. All 5 of us had never, ever all packed out an elk together. All of us hunt. We've all killed, I think, probably almost 50 bulls in the last 10 years, or I'd say probably the last 12 years, 14 years, probably 50 bulls between the 5 of us. We've been very successful with our archery equipment, and that was the first time we took a group picture of all of us with this one bull. That was probably one of the funnest pack outs I've ever. It was an easy pack out. It wasn't far. But yeah, that group, that accountability, that they might not have to be right there on your shoulder, but knowing that those boys are at home, and they're on a mountain too somewhere. I mean, there's been multiple times. I can say September 8th, 2018, got service. My hunting partner, Zach, sticks a bull. He had a moose tag that year, so we weren't being, let's get some elk kills because we're going moose hunting, right? So he sticks a bull 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We put some bulls to bed that morning, 22 miles away. We went check a different spot that afternoon, get his bull packed out. It's 4 o'clock. We drive 22 miles. We bail 4.5 miles back down into a place. Those elk we'd put to bed, and I stick a 6x7 that way. We get service on that 6x7. As we get service, we're going to be a smart ass, so we're going to Snapchat our other buddies, open up our phones. We got bull down. We get a text message that says bull down, and I said 2 bulls down on our end. So I can tell you, it was September 7th to September 8th, 2018. 3 out of the 5 of us hammered that day. And so nobody was helping anybody pack, right? Because everybody was scattered forever. But that camaraderie too in bow hunting, and having that, like you got Lampers, right?
Yeah.
And even though he wasn't on the mountain that day, you texted him.
Oh.
And he told you failures.
In fact, Ryan's the one that said, where I started to talk to him more about solo hunting. I really hadn't done it seriously, not for 10 days in a row by myself or longer, or weeks at a time. And I wanted to experience it, and that changed my hunting, everything. I killed 2 bulls solo that year, and there was just something. I just liked being by myself all day at my pace, hunting animals and figuring it out. There's something I think about solo hunting that makes you more deadly than hunting with a group. If you really want to get better at hunting, you need to do it by yourself. A lot more than, say, I did when I'm a pretty social guy. And as I was growing up, a big part of the hunt was the camaraderie with my cousins, with my best friends, in high school and stuff and growing up. But now there's a feeling I get being solo, and no one interferes with my hunt. No one tells me, it's all me at my pace. And you don't realize how often you quit early because you're in a group and you're as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
And there's also a patience to it, an easy patience when you're solo. It just flows. No one's there to say, let's do this or let's do that, or I don't want to, or even to have conversations with to get you distracted. It's like there's a flow when you're by yourself, I think, that Ryan has honed over a long, long time. We were on that last hunt together with Bear. We were 16 days out there with Brady Miller and Pedro. But Ryan and I alone, the last 6, the 2 of us. And we were coming out, and Ryan didn't get a bear, which isn't normal, right? I mean, you put in the work and the effort, and usually, especially Ryan, he's successful. So some of those are bitter, you put in all the work, but yet it just didn't didn't give you the output, what you were looking for. But we're coming home, and Ryan's looking around, and he's like, if I didn't have a wife and kids, I'd just stay here. And I would just stay here for weeks until I found what I wanted. No need. I'd come here probably 5 or 6 months out. I might stay here all year. Just get in that cabin down there and just work for the state and just live here. Literally with nobody to talk to. Ever. That's a different human being. Like, I'm not wired that way. There's a part of me, I enjoy a few weeks like that. More than ever, too, as I've gotten older. But you got to realize, when you see Tana as youngest, you see how quiet and reserved and not here so much, actually. But you take her to the Western Hunt Expo and you see a meltdown, right? All these people, there are people who just are wired to enjoy alone time. He's one of those people, and then you stack on all those years of alone time and hours in the woods, and there's a deadly hunter right there.
For sure.
So
yeah, experience is the best teacher, and when you're solo like that, you're so efficient, you're so deadly, but you're right, you don't have to consider anybody else's time, anybody else's feelings, what they want to do, and so you're just able to make these decisions in real time and chase these animals. And again, there's no distractions. Like I like hunting both ways. I like hunting with buddies, and I also like hunting by myself. But once you learn to hunt by yourself, you can be a better hunting partner. You can split up and go different ways, and then when you join back up, you say, oh, what'd you see? Oh, I got the elk party. You're coming with me tomorrow. We'll split. We'll do this. We'll do that. And it makes you a better hunter. But that solo time is crucial for learning. There's no distractions. You're absolutely immersed in that experience. And I need my alone time. I fish by myself. I hunt by myself. I trail run by myself. Like I'm an introvert as well. An introvert that has a podcast, which is so weird. But I need that alone time, and that's really where you grow those skills and build those skills and really like being a good hunter. You talked about the 10,000 hours, which I thought was a great description. And the longer you do it, the better you get. And the only reason I'm any good at bow hunting is because I've made every mistake out there. I've spooked every elk. I've spooked every mule deer. I've missed them. I've messed up stalks. And through that, like you begin to shape these hunting instincts. And those hunting instincts are going to be what gets you successful. There's 100 or 1,000 right decisions you have to make when you're stalking a herd of elk or when you're stalking a big muley buck, and you can't think about every decision consciously. Like, you just start to develop these hunting instincts that then dictate and make these decisions for you, and through time you get better and better. You develop more patience. Like, you're able to see what failure is and what success is, and you're able to kind of steer those tracks towards that success more often. And so now me, with all the experience I have, solo hunting with buddies, whatever it is, all that experience has shaped me into a great bow hunter, to where now if I see a good critter, like, I've got a good chance to harvest that critter because I'll make the right decisions leading into it.
I love that. You were mentioning consistency, and also consistency. What's your phrase?
Consistency creates dedication. Dedication creates consistency. That
right there, I think, is understanding, as a part of understanding human behavior. Dave Ramsey has the Total Money Makeover and Financial Peace University, and he's this financial advisor always encouraging people to get out of debt and so on. He has that thing he calls the debt snowball. And let's say you've got, $30,000 in various debt. Some of it's credit card, $10,000 on a credit card, $5,000 on this, $7,000 here. He's like, people always want to tackle the highest interest rate debt right off the bat. But he's like, if we could do math, you wouldn't be in debt in the first place. Okay, so let's talk about this. Right now, he's like, it's about motivation and human behavior. He's like, you need to you need to pay off the smallest debt first. So you owe $300 to this thing here. You owe $700 there. You owe $1,000 there. When you pay off that, maybe the lowest interest rate ones are the smallest debt total. He's like, I don't care, because what we want is you to feel the results of the consistent behavior. So he's like, pay off the little debt first, and then that creates a result that you're like, oh, I see that my efforts are working. Now you have more motivation to pay off the next one, and it's only $1,000, and so pretty quickly you pay that one down. And again, that consistency creates this result, and then makes you more dedicated to go for more of that result. And when I hear you talking about that process, I think, yeah, I relate to that. When you go to the gym or you go to the mountains, whatever, put your time in behind the bow, putting it in to get results then motivates you to put it in more because you got results.
Yeah.
And it feeds on itself. And when I create a film, I'll work at it at home for, a week or two, and I'll have this thing that I'm developing, and it's a film series, and I'll get 1 or 2 shows done out of a 5-part series, but I'll start to lose the drive or the excitement for the project. But once I publish episode 1, and then I get all the feedback, and I see how much people appreciated it and enjoyed it and stuff, all of a sudden my motivation, I'm like cranking along, doing the next part because I'm feeling like some results from my effort.
Yeah.
And then it helps me get the latter parts of the series finished. I know that when I put something out there and I get feedback on it, that I really want to just give more and figure out how to do the next one as quickly as possible. And that's powerful. The other thing that you said that really got my attention, Sam, is, iron sharpens iron. Man, a lot of people are here because they actually want to build community and be part of something. And I think Hillary started this event with the same thing. If you can get yourself a group of friends that share your interests, which is easier said than done, but if you can, you become like the 5 people you hang out with the most, they say. You know? And my kids, we pulled them out of homeschool because I wanted them to become like me, not like their purple-haired teacher. So it's like I started homeschooling because I wanted them, if they're going to become like who they're around the most, I want them around myself and their mom and other people that I want them to become like. Mm-hmm. You've got to realize that about yourself. I think you're around guys you want to become like. That have aspects of their personality and their character that you value or admire. And they likewise want to be around you. And so you push each other. And I think that's powerful right there. It shapes lives, changes the direction of where you're going in life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Barney, you were talking here. I'd like to get your 2 cents on, other than just hours and hours of practice, but what else, what would you recommend to guys that are starting out? Mm-hmm. What's your kind of advice to help them on their journey?
Mm-hmm. I think it's fall in love with the process, fall in love with hunting, fall in love with putting in the work on it. And it all starts with your mind. It starts and ends with your mind. Like all the best hunters that we've mentioned in this podcast, the guys I'm sitting next to, we've developed a strong mind. But I'm no different than everybody else. Like I have self-doubt. I've failed. I've quit early. I've made all these mistakes. But through that, I start to shape who I want to become. And you can become whatever you want in life. And that's, it sounds like a cliche as well. But the first step to it is making up your mind what you want to do in life, what you want to become. And then you start putting in the work, but it's falling in love with it. It's falling in love with bow hunting and chasing these animals. And because of that, I want to put in the work. And so, I feel like these daily trail miles, I feel like these reps through the bow, like I love going down the rabbit hole of each one of these skill sets and trying to improve them. And the beautiful thing is like bow hunting, you never stop being a student of the game. You never stop learning. You never stop getting better. I'm 42 and I'm a better version, a better bow hunter than I was last season, and I'll be a better one next season. Like, I continue to grow. I continue to push myself. I love the challenge of it, and I love the entire process of it, and that's why I'm good at it. But I'd say the first thing is set your mind to it. Develop mental toughness, which is building layer upon layer upon layer of these calluses of doing difficult things, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. If you want to be one of those 10% hunters, you have to put in the work, and you have to make up your mind that that's what you want to do, and then day in and day out, work hard towards those goals, and it carries over to every facet of your life, from the hunting to your family life, like you mentioned, to your work life, and all of a sudden, you can just shape yourself into this amazing human being that you really want to become and be, and it just happens over time of just making your mind up. And I'm a different person than I was 5 years ago. I continue to grow, continue to get stronger, but just make your mind up.
I love that. You were just talking, it's a decision. You know, Joel Turner talks about you quit making decisions, Brian, in the middle of your shot. Like, you got to make the decisions all the way to the release, you know. So often we get stuck not making, just sitting there, not realizing we're not decision making. When I was early in my career in accounting and finance and IT and stuff, did a lot of governance and audit, IT assurance, revenue assurance audits and stuff. And what I realized early on was people who made decisions, they're winners. Whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision, what I started to realize was there were people in life who made a choice and acted, whether it was right or wrong. They used their gut, and the best decision they thought they could make, but they made a decision. And I became a person who was like, I don't want to be the guy that's indecisive, that gets frozen in indecision. I can recall when I was younger getting frozen in indecision on a stalk. And it's like, dude, after I blew it, I'm like, what killed me was not deciding. There's more than one way to skin a cat. I could have gone on that stalk and killed it 5 different ways. Just pick one. And I found over the years that being a decision maker has been huge. But you just mentioned something about how this has bled over to other aspects of your life where you're successful as well. Family and work and, business and so on. Well, you look at Ryan, you look at me, you look at you guys. We sound obsessive when it comes to hunting.
We are.
And archery and all the things, right? So what's that balance? How do you guys, how do you make sure that you're not successful in only one lane and you're successful across many lanes? What do you do? How do you manage that? Because I know some people who are really good at this one thing and their whole life is shambles outside of it. Not very often, though, because in my opinion, usually if you're not successful across a broad range of places, that one area where you put all your eggs in is also going to fall apart at some point as well. What is it that helps you be successful across the board? You don't sacrifice your family in the name of this passion.
I don't think I had great balance in the beginning. I think I was hyper-focused on hunting, where I saw things go downhill in my family life, where I wasn't spending enough time, or maybe I was skipping out on work too much to go hunting to spend my time in the woods. And so I don't think I had that balance right away. But I think through hunting, I'm able to build these character traits and these habits that are positive habits. And also, we talked about the meditation of the mountains and being immersed in that challenge. You also spend 10 days by yourself. You can't hide from yourself anymore. You find out who you really are. Like, you dive deep into your thoughts and how you operate in life, and you say, hey, I'm messing up here. At work, I could have done this better. Or I need to be a better leader here. Or with my family, like maybe I am at home, but I'm checked out. I'm thinking about work problems, and I'm not I'm not engaged with my family and laughing and joking and having fun with them. Like, I need to be better at that. Or, here I am and I'm such this hardcore backcountry hunter, but I can't get off the couch to help my wife do the dishes or clean the kitchen after dinner. So there's all these things that I reflect back on my life, and it's like, that's not the person I want to be. The person I want to be is a great husband. I want to be a great father. And it's a strange balance, because to raise good kids, you want to show them to chase their dreams, to chase their passion, to go hard at whatever they want in life, to teach them this work ethic. But you can't do it. I can't do it with golf. I'm not passionate about golf. I love to bow hunt. And so, like, you want to show them that, but you also have to be there and present with them to be able to develop them into good human beings, to give them all those skills.
Right.
And so, like, it is this balance, but it's just over time. Just like bow hunting, I get better at life the longer I do it, and I make mistakes and I do things that I'm not proud of, but I'm able to change that. I'm able to be a different person tomorrow. I'm able to change those habits.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because Amy Livesey was on the podcast the other day with Mark, and she said, look, men need adventure. They do. They need to go out and have a little danger, have a little adventure. They need to struggle. They need a challenge. And then they come home. And she's like, and then when they come home, they're just better men. It's kind of like what you said. I didn't really put it together, but you're saying you go out there and you're just by yourself. It forces a type of internal reflection, being out there, being challenged, being alone often for hours in a quiet place. And you're like, I need to do better. I think I do that on every hunt, actually.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely you do that. For me, you ask those questions, and it's a balance. Like, you have to go to work. We can't hunt for 12 months out of the year. So you're obligated to your job. Your job's what creates the money. Your family's there. Your wife's the one that's taking care of everything while we are up in these mountains. And so for me, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do a good job at it. Like, I think that's just been. That maybe is DNA. I don't know. Maybe that's worked into me through the athletics as a kid. But for me, as if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do my all. Yeah. And I don't want to half-ass anything. And I'm not saying I'm just like, Barney. Every one of us is screwed up. Yeah, I've cut corners. I have. I'm not a perfect person. But when it comes to being a dad and a husband first, like my wife, that's huge to me. And for me, when I get to the hills and I know that everything's good at home, like there was a hunt where my wife had gotten to a new job. And I left, and it was 10 days in some country, big Wyoming country that you know about, and I was 10 days up there solo. And I was on, like, day 3, and I had service. I'd in-reached her, and it was just one of the thumbs up, pretty much, like, okay, good. Well, it was a new job, and our little girl was 2 at the time, and she'd hit a little bit of a wall, a stress at home. And the stress at home that she felt, and here I am just living up in the mountains. Man, that's tough. So the whole being a dad and all that, like, if it's not right at home, it's hard up on the mountains. And it was nothing against her. It wasn't her fault. She wasn't trying to call me off the mountain. She was just being my wife, and she needed to talk to someone. And boy, that stress on the back of your mind when you're up in those hills and you're by yourself. And I guess it ended up being, everything was fine. But that whole thing, so that really has shown me, like, you want to be the best husband. You want to make sure everything's good. You want to work hard at that. Mm-hmm. So at my job, I want to work hard. I gotta provide for my family. Set bow hunting aside, I need to provide for my family. So that's for my job. I do the best job, and I work a lot by myself. Yeah. So working by myself, like, you could cut corners there, but that's not what you do, right? No one ever checks on my work. It's all up to me what I do. So you take a lot of pride in that. So when someone comes along 50 years and sees like that, they're like, man, this guy, like, I think of things like that. I see things that guys have done 50, like, man, you rip a wall down, tearing apart an old house, helping my buddy, and you'll see that the work, the precision someone put into something, and you're like, no one ever really knew that, but that guy didn't cut that corner, and I want to be that. And so I think that's out of all facets of life, and there it goes into bow hunting. But you said set it aside, like in life skills. I think it's just, I want to be, if you're going to do it, like there's some saying, I know there's a quote out there about doing something. If you're going to do it right. Do it right. Yeah. I don't know who did it. I've heard it, numerous times here.
Don't bother at all, right? Like if you're not, that's a stalk. That's my philosophy on a stalk. You see this buck and he beds in a thicket and you're like, but you don't have eyes on him exactly. and you're in, let's say, the Dakotas, and it's pretty flat, but you didn't see him leave, but he could have. Well, there's a 5-hour stalk to get in bow range right there and then have that thing stand up and shoot him. But if you're going to do the stalk, do it right or don't do it at all. And I see these guys are like, well, because I can't really see it, I'm just going to sort of sloppy stalk. Why? Just go home.
Yeah.
Just go home. You gotta go after that deer as if he's there or don't bother. So make your decision. But to do it, that's my pet peeve is like, you're going to do the stalk, but you're going to do it without your heart, then you're just going to fail. So don't, like, if you're going to make the effort, just do it. Commit. Mm-hmm. And I have done some, you should see, I've done some wicked stalks on bushes. But I've killed some studs because they were there. Yeah. And sure enough, they did what I thought they were going to do. So, but you've got to go on that faith that they're there or don't bother doing it at all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We see repetition or we see patterns to these different things that we do. And it's so wild as you listen to us talk and we talk about bow hunting and we compare it to life and we compare it to work. These skill sets, these character traits that we're building, they apply to all facets of life. And to solve the puzzle of backcountry bow hunting, you start to see a pattern with that in being a good family man or a pattern with that in business, a pattern with that in life. So you build these character traits. You become this bow hunter you want to be, and all of a sudden you can start to solve that same puzzle in business or that same puzzle in life or that same puzzle with your family. And so like sometimes it seems like I'm just out bow hunting, and a lot of times that is what I'm doing. That's all I'm thinking about. But through that, I'm gaining the reflection. I'm building the character traits, the human that I want to be, and then I'm able to go back and carry that over in life. And so pretty soon you're just you're this man that you want to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of it is just like going to the gym or doing a cold plunge every day or something. There's something about doing hard things all the time. And basically from the day the hunt starts to the day the hunt ends, it's a grind if you're doing it right and you're trying to kill, And every day you're making yourself get up early and you're making yourself hike hard, you're pushing, and every time you achieve that, I think you just become a better man, which then helps you not quit in all the aspects of your life. Mm-hmm.
Well, like you said earlier about the mental toughness, that you're building a mental toughness in every aspect of that, and it rolls over to the next thing. And your mental toughness about this, because there are going to be days at work where you're frustrated, something's hard, family's hard, you get home, something you got to challenge. But then going through those and building on those challenges, knowing like when you accomplish one, like you said, then like I can accomplish this. It's hard, then it's a completely different thing you're working at, but I can get through this. It gives you that motivation and that confidence to achieve what needs to be done.
I have teenage girls, and
me too.
Yeah, it's been a challenge.
Mine's only 4,
but they got to a point one day. It was about a year and a half ago where things were running on all cylinders with Gritty and the brand and partners and everything. Ryan and I are having success on all these hunts, and I probably, like you said, Brian, I just sort of fell a little too much into the business and into the career and the thing I'm building here and the thing I love to do, and sort of didn't put the time in over here with the kids, or what wasn't really involved enough to see the arrows and darts being slung their way, and being able to help direct them in the right path. And we had some tough days, and I was out on the mountain, and I was like, all of a sudden, all the success, all the bow hunting success in the world, killing that animal, capturing footage and sharing it, building a brand, doing the things, helping people, none of it meant anything. None of it meant anything if my kids didn't come out of this where I wanted him to be in life. And that changed for me. Like all of a sudden I'm talking to Ryan. I'm like, look, I have to have more time here right now at this stage in this moment. And I'm going to pull back over here. I'm still going to get the job done. But this is this. And then when that's back on track, it's like, okay, now I'm back over here, super engaged, able to manage this better. And but for me, what I started to realize was success in the field was hollow if I didn't have the other parts of my life dialed in, from job to security for my family, providing for them, and as well my children's well-being, their mental health, their spiritual, all those things. Like it was just empty. And so now I look at things and I often think that if things aren't right at home, then the joy of what I do for a living is stolen from me. And so it's not hard for me to find the drive to put the energy into both places, Yeah. It's almost natural. Yeah. But like you said I don't think I really ever had this magical balance. Mm-hmm. I think it's a continual, throughout my whole life I'm not balanced. It's like I go too far this way and then back this way and the pendulum swings. And, but it's that constant roll call where every few months you're assessing where, and you realize I'm off here, or things aren't right there, and you tackle that. But
yeah, self-check.
But it's not mutually exclusive. It's not either or. You get to have both. You can balance. You can figure it out. You can have a great bow hunting, lifestyle and successful, podcast and all of that. Your business, your construction, all those things. You can do that and have a great family life, great relationships. And it's not an either or thing. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. Maybe you won't be, the number one bow hunter in the world, right? But do you have to be, And to me, it's like, it's the balance across all domains, being successful across multiple domains in relationships, job, career, family, hunting, physical fitness, health, wellness, all those things. If you can the more you can be successful in all those areas, I do believe you have you have a very happy life, that's the place to be. But it's hard.
Oh man. But that's why we do it. If it was easy, we wouldn't do it, right? We'd subtract bow hunting out of it. If it was too easy, we'd go find something else. So I think we like hard. That's why we do all of this. I'm not saying that you like the family life being hard, the job, but that's that right back to competition. We're competitive. We like that drive. If it was easy, we wouldn't do it. And that's why, that's what keeps me going. I mean, in being a family, and I want to be the best dad I can be. It's not easy being a dad. You guys got more kids than I do, and you're dealing with teenage girls, and I got a 4-year-old. And it's not
I
easy.
thought it was going to be easier, actually. I thought I was just I thought I was like a pretty awesome dad. I thought it was just going to be pretty simple. But you never know what they're going to especially teenagers.
I can't
in
wait.
general.
Can't wait.
You got some go this way and some go that way, and it's like, all right, let's see here. Yeah.
And it's difficult. You got to let them make mistakes too. They have to have their own human experience where they make mistakes, they learn from it, they get better. You're just there to guide them along. But it's that's our job as parents, is to prepare them for life, to prepare them for hardships. And life isn't easy for anybody. And it's not easy to be happy in life, and so you're just trying to give them the necessary skills. And life's it's not, nobody starts out good at it. Like for me, it's like it's an improvement. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
Like you have to learn. You have to make mistakes. You have to recorrect. But you can't be too hard on yourself. You can't have this negative talk. Like you have to decide what you want and you work towards it. You make mistakes along the way. You learn from it. I'll be better next time. And so, those are the skills that I'm trying to pass on.
I think though that you have to fight. You have to fight for it. You have to fight for your kids.
Yeah.
You have to fight for your wife. You have to fight for your hunt. like all of it, your job, your career. You have to fight for it. You have to do it. You have to go for it. And sometimes with teenagers, I found like that was some of the hardest thing, just fighting. Because as a parent, you want to give, you want to make things easy, you just want to be there and take care of things. And it's like what they need a lot of times is just to be told no, shut up, get your work done, And so there's that balance. And but I have found like especially with family, with kids, what they need. Fight for that. Even if you're breaking a heart now, it's the right thing because they're dumb. That's where teenagers are.
We all were. We were a 2-point buck. I was so dumb.
It was a 2-point buck.
2-point buck.
No kidding.
That paints a picture right there. Oh, jeez. That's a great way to end this thing. So, man, guys, appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's a pleasure hanging out, being here with you guys and everyone here, learning so much.
Oh man,
thanks
awesome.
for all you do. Mm-hmm. It's a pleasure having you on, folks. Well, Sam, where can people follow you?
I'm on Instagram. I don't do much I got Facebook. That's Instagram. sdavis2506.
sdavis
2506.
2506. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a bow you like or what?
It's funny. Just as a kid, that's just one of the things. Dad's like, pick a number that's easy to remember when you had to start doing all these. And it was always 25-06 is the only caliber when I shot. That's what I used to shoot, and so that just stuck. So S Davis 25-06. And my wife set up my Instagram. I didn't even build my Instagram. My wife did it. I didn't even about 5-6 years ago. She's set up my Instagram, so she knew that was the number I used. She S Davis. That's it. I'm real original here.
But they can go follow you there and see what you're up to.
Yeah.
DM you maybe.
Yeah.
With some questions.
Hit me up. I got a YouTube channel. It's called Predators Never Quit. It's not
Nice.
gritty. It's not gritty YouTube. It's just I wanted somewhere to put some videos that I'd put together so that one of these days my daughter can make fun of her dad sneaking around those. And it's not great films, but I got some films.
I followed that. I left a few comments there.
Yeah.
He just had a film that dropped with Stone Glacier too that I can't wait to check out on a mule deer hunt from last year. And those guys put out some good films as well. So I am a fan of Western hunting, so I like watching all you guys and following your social media.
Well, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Absolutely. And Barney, they can find you at Eastman's Elevated podcast.
Yep.
And where else? You've got your Instagram.
Yep, Brian_Barney on Instagram, and then I have some videos out with Eastman's as well, or Beyond the Grid, and everything's an evolution, and I get better at capturing the story and telling the story, and so we have some good films dropping here in July, including a backcountry, high country. Wilderness hunt, that was, or not even wilderness, but backcountry hunt that was all done out of a backpack with a bow and arrow, chasing velvet muleys, and my absolute passion. So you can check those out too.
That's awesome. I feel like I've watched every one of your bow hunts and that I can find. And the thing about it, and I say this to Ryan all the time, we can hone our film skills and what we capture, and we can. I can hone how I share the story and unfold it for people to enjoy. But the reality is you need to do epic things to create an epic film. Otherwise, it's just a pretty film. You need to do something special. And Barney, that's what you do. So it doesn't matter if the film's all that tight. At the end of the day, when you do something epic, that's it. That's what we're all wanting to watch.
Spot on.
I gotta add one thing. I'm not an industry guy per se, and following along with you two over like Brian Barney, I remember reading his articles, following along with you two, and like we were talking about this, the progression of Gritty's films over that, it's phenomenal work. And so coming from a guy that's not an industry guy, but to look up to you guys and what you've done in the film part of things is outstanding. And I was the guy that had 250 DVDs as a kid, had every Primos and every DVD, had every Fred Eichler video. I mean, all the videos. So to see what you guys have done, and you've changed you've changed it wasn't just here we are, we're going to shoot it, kill it, done. It's the story. The story behind all of these is what you guys are putting out is awesome. Then I just wanted to say that coming from an outsider that's not in the industry, it's good. It's so cool to watch your guys' hunts and see. And yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Well, folks, if you like the show, leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. Always like and subscribe to the show, the podcast. Check these guys out. They're excellent hunters. And thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty.